Our opening welcome speaker, Dean Sally Blount. So Dean Blount's been here just over 3 years? 4 years. 4 years. Time flies. And I have to say, in that period of time, Kellogg has become more strategic, more intentionally strategic, looking for the horizons in which we should be playing, becoming intentional about building teams and initiatives around achieving those things. We had a panel the first day about innovation and executive education, and that's obviously a topic that is close to our heart here. There's a new program we're just announcing called the Advanced Management Program. This is a program for very senior executives who are unlikely to take 2 years out of their schedule to go get an MBA, but want to go to the next level. And this program is, in addition to being quite innovative, it also takes the group around the world for significant segments in China and other parts of the world. So if you're interested, let us know about that. In addition to this building thing in the back, we've felt a little bit of the reverberations, literally, of that project. Sally Blount has created a new vision for the school, is in the middle of a major capital campaign, that albatross on the back of every dean, and it's going exceptionally well. So she's reinvigorated the place. I'm proud as ever to be part of her institution. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Sally Blount.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Rob. One of the tough things about being the dean at Kellogg is all these great things happen like Ken, and people just keep scheduling you for meetings, right? So recently, I always have this reaction. I saw that video. By the way, that was outstandingly beautiful and touching and reminded me of some traditions should never change. Some things should never be disrupted. Some things should endure across centuries, like that very simple but very impactful song. And it reminded me that we need to think about what endures and what changes when we deal with innovation. One of the gifts for me at Kellogg, as I was saying about Ken, though, is I often have an experience of going to things and say, wait, I want to go to Kellogg. I want to go to Ken. When I go see the students' special K performance, where they do this unbelievable creative work, songs, dances that they write themselves, I kind of go, I want to go be a Kellogg student. It is the amazing part of this organization that all kinds of energy are constantly erupting in magnificent displays of intellect, of our culture of deep, deep, supportive, collaborative ties, because we have an understanding of the power of people and the power of change and team in transforming the world. And Ken, to me, is another example of the best of Kellogg. How Rob pretty selflessly gathers people each year to create an experience for a very small group of you. It's an intimacy that, he says it's so important we don't, this is one of these things we aren't ready to overscale because it would lose its impact. Any of you that have been at some of these bigger conferences now know that when it gets too big, it's no longer quite as special as what Rob and his team have created over the years. But what I think is important about it, what I love about the topic this year is growth and scaling is so fundamental to humankind. It's so fundamental to what we have to be able to do to make the world a better place over the centuries to come. And it's a topic that's very near and dear to Kellogg, and we'll be talking a lot about growth and scaling over coming months in some of the work that we're doing. We're deeply committed, and we understand the power of growth. And it's got a triple entendre that's very, very nice about it. It's growth in people, it's growth in organizations, and it's growth in markets that we need to be thinking about, and we're very passionate and reflecting on here at Kellogg. Our industry is about to be transformed in the next decade, in case you hadn't noticed. Anybody ever heard of the word MOOC? Right? Anybody been to an ed tech conference? I just was down at the one that's done at Arizona State University about a month ago. And the beautiful thing is I ran into 20 different Kellogg alumni that I didn't know had entered into the ed tech space. Our job here is to not only have the dialogues with all of you about innovation, but to be having the dialogues with ourselves about how do we constantly recreate ourselves. So we've done a lot of changes, and we're doing sort of all the best practices we're busy teaching and hearing and learning from you, we're trying to put in place at Kellogg. And so one of the things we think a lot about is, Ken's been in place a decade. What do we do with it next? How do we leverage the learning that we've done in that? We've been thinking a lot about how do we create new pathways for our faculty to have new conversations, to get the next big idea that we can be known for. We reflect a lot when we look at our history and what's unique about us, about how do we pivot that and leverage that and leapfrog that forward without losing our essence. Because I was reading just yesterday that wonderful old Peter Drucker quote, how culture eats strategy for breakfast. One of the things we've always been great at is culture. And culture endures for years. And how do you take that culture and move it forward with innovation, with new ideas, without losing that essence? It's a very, very delicate balance that we're working on in our own workshop here at Kellogg. When you do things like we're doing, like putting in matrix structures so that new conversations happen, opening up new campuses, because we now have, if you didn't know it, we have the world's premier global executive MBA network across 4 continents, currently #1 ranked in all the major global rankings, Economist, FT. And we were truly an innovator in creating that network of relationships. We believe deeply in global outreach, but local groundedness. So we always do it with a partner in market, the most recently being the Peking University, the Kellogg School of Management in Beijing. And again, this is part of Kellogg's essence that I'm entrusted to build on, but figure out what the next version is about. And so that's one theme that we think about. When we're about to be in this industry that's transforming, how do you hold on to culture? How do you hold on what's good about the past, but also be nimble and resilient as you make change? And I'm struck every day when I see that darn construction site. It's pretty ugly. And what it constantly reminds me, and I was just saying to Peter, is progress is often ugly. Disruption is ugly. Building this amazing new one-of-a-kind building that's going to allow us to convene, use technology, teach in ways that we've never dreamed of before is going to take 3 years of ugliness, and for some of us it took a few more of that. And yet, the key during disruptive change, the key to innovation is keeping your eye on the vision and adapting to that vision as new information comes along. But again, while still holding that tie to the essence of who you are and what you represent and what you're trying to do in the world. And it's a harder task in some ways in education because we have existed for 100 years. Most of your for-profit firms haven't. There is one firm from the original Dow Jones Industrial Average that's still in business when it was started in 1896. Anybody want to guess which that one is? GE. Do you work there?
No, I don't.
All right. How many of the original Fortune 500s are still in business? And that was started in 1955, that list. Anybody want to guess? I won't make you list them. It's a more than one. 67. It was slightly bigger than I expected, but every year, 30 to 40 firms fall out. And one of the differences in education, though, is we don't want to fall out, right? We've been around for 100 years. We're a great school, a great university. And how we innovate, we have to keep moving stronger. We're not supposed to fall out. We have to keep an essence across centuries, because that's what the great universities do. It really is a unique innovation challenge. And we'll be back in a couple years to tell you how some of our experiments that we're currently in process have borne out. So it's an exciting time for us to be convening all of you, to listening to your ideas and sharing our ideas. We're indebted to Rob and his whole team for the innovation they've exhibited over the last decade in creating the Kellogg Innovation Network. And one of the things that we're active in dialogue on is where does it go next with the new vision of Kellogg and what we're trying to achieve, while also holding on to our essence. And for me at Kin, it's the intimacy and the very special nature of what it means to come here. And always remembering that progress is ugly. And part of our job as forward thinkers is to keep everybody calm and comfortable with the ugliness that true disruption requires. Always keeping your eye on the vision, like I try to do whenever I see that pile of paving material outside the window while getting a cup of coffee. So I'm excited about Kin each year, the energy that you put in and create for each one of you, the number of dialogues that are taking place around the globe. I'm excited about the experiments that we're doing here and in partnership with many of you as we think about the transformation of higher education and we think about this very human phenomena of growth and scaling. Because there are many, many more people still to lift out of poverty. There are many, many more systems to make more rational, effective, and kind. And thank you all for your commitment to this very unique group, this very unique dialogue in pushing us all forward on those important goals. And I can't wait to see what our students are going to have to tell us about all of that this morning. So thank you all for being here.
And thank you, Sally. So at Kin, we talk often about the role of the CEO in helping to support innovation, new business creation, et cetera. And you've done a lot since you've come to provide that ever important political air cover and support both in front of and behind the scenes. We appreciate it quite a bit.